Hello all, welcome to this video. Let's discuss what localhost 8080 is. You might have seen localhost 8080 while running a web project locally. It usually shows up in the browser's address bar when you start a development server. The page loads, your app works, and everything seems fine. But what exactly does localhost 8080 mean? Why does it look like a website address and why do developers use it so often? To understand this properly, let's break it down into two parts, localhost and 8080. The word localhost is a special host name that always refers to the computer that you are currently using. When your browser sees localhost, it doesn't query the internet or the DNS server for help. Instead, your operating system immediately resolves it to a special IP address called as the loopback address. Any traffic sent to this address never leaves your computer. So let's say this is your operating system. Whenever you query the loopback address, the traffic will be redirected to the operating system. So any traffic sent to this address never really leaves your computer. It doesn't go to a router or a network cable. The operating system intercepts it and routes it back internally. This is what makes localhost so useful for development. When you run a server locally, you are not simulating networking. You're using the real networking stack. Your application still uses TCP, still uses ports, creates sockets, etc. Exactly this in the same way it would on a real server. The only difference is that the traffic stays entirely in your machine, which makes local development fast, secure, and isolated. Now let's talk about 8080. 8080 is a port number. Ports exist because a single computer may run many network programs at the same time. The port number tells the operating system which program should receive the incoming traffic. When you visit localhost 8080, your browser is saying, send this request to my own computer, specifically to the program listening on port 8080. If no program is bound to that port, the connection fails. Not because localhost is broken, but because there's nothing listening on port 8080. So why is port 8080 used so often? Well, port 80 is the default port for HTTP, but it's frequently reserved, already in use, or many times restricted by the operating system. So on many systems, binding to port 80 becomes a problem, requires extra administrative privileges. Because of this, developers commonly choose port 8080 as their default alternative HTTP port. So there's nothing special about it, it's just a simple convention. You can use ports like 3000 or 5000 for your remote development server if you wish. So now when you press enter after typing localhost 8080, several things happen quickly. The browser resolves localhost to the IP address 127.0.0.1 and then sends a TCP request to the port 8080. The operating system checks whether any program has been bound to that port. If a server is listening, the operating system tries to create a socket which handles the communication between the browser and the server. From that point on, all communication happens through this socket. Even though everything is local, this is still a real client-server connection handled by the OS. It is also very important to understand what localhost 8080 is not. It is not a public website and it's not accessible from other devices by default. If any other computer types localhost 8080 into its browser, it will try to connect to its own computer, not yours. Every machine has its own loopback address, which is why localhost traffic is isolated unless you explicitly expose it. So in summary, localhost 8080 means connect to a program running on my computer that is listening on port 8080. It combines a loopback address with a commonly used development port, allowing developers to build and test real networked application using the same rules as the production systems, just without leaving their own machines. Thank you.